from the guys who brought you Fight Night picks. And for a short time, hitting above the Mendoza line, comes the Allen Brothers' next project. Let's tear the cover off and join in 15-minute card break.
Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick onto any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clelin Ferrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.
And we are back and looking forward to UFC Vegas 38, headlined by Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker. I can't wait for this one to happen. We have so much to talk about in this episode of Fight Night Picks Kicks. Thanks everybody so much over there in the comments section. Matthew Campbell saying, let's go. Found you guys a few weeks back. Great analysis and breakdowns. I appreciate all the work you guys do. Keep it up beyond. So stoked to have found you guys. Matthew, I appreciate you. I read that like that was a plant, but it was a very long bit of text, so I read it. Laos Non is here, Bro Bogan, Clay, OJ, Zach G, Phoenix, William,
everybody.
Kiko Sear, everybody that makes these shows so special week in and week out. Last weekend, it was a great one. I went 11-2, Matt, you went 10-3, but the picks and all of that didn't matter. It was the support that everybody was able to show us. The subs that have been kind of racking up over the last number of weeks. We've got that big push on. If we can make it to 30,000 subscribers, we'll have you a Dana White's Contender Series show. I will promise you that. And if it happens after Dana White's Contender Series, we'll find something else out. But we're not going to make it there. We're going to get those subs in. Definitely appreciate it. Between two comments is over there. Bronson, flyby guy from Alberta. Darren, is it Fuchsia or is it Futia? Regardless, I'm really looking forward to this one, Matt. I mean, we have 12 fights now that Lad Chasson, the curse fight, is off. Chasson, obviously, she had a foot fracture that wasn't healing well, ended up going out of their first booking, and then obviously we saw what happened to Aspen Ladd yesterday. Scary stuff, wishing nothing but the best for her. And, yeah, hopefully she's able to resume her career in a normal spot.
And that was the fight I was really excited about. Like, those are two top-ranked bantamweights and two fighters who could honestly find themselves in a title shot after, like, one big win, like the fight they're supposed to have today. It is just so unfortunate that Aspen Ladd has had these problems at bantamweight. This isn't the first time that she has struggled to make weight, and it always does look very uncomfortable when she is at weigh-ins or when she is weighing in. I'm really happy that the fight's off, though. Like, thank goodness someone's kind of looking out for Aspen Ladd. And I know Aspen Ladd herself was like, oh, my opponent's the one who declined to take the fight. And it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be actively competing in a fist fight the day after you had such a draining weight cut.
Well, Matt, Clay hitting us up in the super chat. Definitely appreciate that. Had a good week last week. 9 of 9 on straight parlay, wow. 5% of a $5 bet. Appreciate that. Clay supporting the channel. Matt, we're going to do what we always do with question mark kicks. We're going to go top to bottom, or rather bottom to top through the entire card. We're going to talk about those fight of the night, so I want everybody to get their picks in while we do it. But when I go over to that screen, and let's do it right now, and just not, we'll talk about it and we'll do it. But as I'm playing around on the computer here, Matt, I want to get people's thoughts. I went way off the wall and really made a totally, I think it's pretty cool thumbnail for next week.
I like it.
Did it myself. I went with a comic book theme, and I thought, well, you know, Mackenzie Dern, she speaks Portuguese, and Marina Rodriguez, she's from Brazil. I'll go with those colors, but yeah, I went with the comic book look. Let me know what you think of that one. It doesn't look like any other Fight Night Picks thumbnail we've ever had. So yeah, I really want to hear from everybody on this one. So let me know over in the comment section. If you don't like it, I can take it. But we'll move on to our Fight of the Night picks, Matt, because, yeah, I mean, you look at it, Devonte Smith taking on Jamie Mullarkey. No word of a lie, this is my favorite fight on this card.
This should be a phenomenal fight. Jamie Mullarkey, he's kind of known for losing in spectacular fashion, and I don't mean that disrespectfully whatsoever. It's just, when I think about Jamie Mullarkey, it's the crazy fight with Brad Riddell. It is his loss to Alexander Volkanovski that came before either guy was even in the UFC. But the great thing about Jamie Mullarkey is that he gets better after those losses. He never remains stagnant. He's a good striker, although he does look kind of stiff on the feet. He's got great power, he's got good wrestling, he's got good grappling. He's just such a well-rounded talent and such a fun fighter at 155 pounds. And then on the opposite side, Devonte Smith has ungodly power in this division, and he's got great wrestling. It's just, this is one of those fights that they bury on the prelims, but it has no business being this far down in the fight card.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I got a nice comment this week, or one that I kind of took a jab back at with, well, the guy said that Devonte Smith's wrestling was good. He clearly didn't see the John Gunther fight. I saw it. It was 4 years ago, and the guy got better. Look at his fight against Justin James last time out, and that beautiful reversal into what ultimately led to a giant finish. Over in the comments section, Matt, appreciate all the support from everybody. Seems like everybody likes it except for Ansav. So Ansav, I'm sorry, buddy, but I got to go with this one. And our second pick, Oliveira Price, right up there at the top. And I got to go back to, again, I missed the super chat. Garrett's over there. But Luis Rodriguez saying, continued success for me with your great insight, guys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Garrett hitting up the super chat. Hit an $870 parlay last week. Love the new thumbnail idea, by the way. Let's get into it. So, Matt, when we look at this fight, Oliveira taking on Nico Price, I love this fight so much. I mean, Kiko's saying the hybrid by TKO. One man has 6 kids. One has 11. One's talking about vasectomies. One, I don't know if he's going to stop. I don't want to be in the room either way. But it's a wild fight, and I think it's going to be great.
This should be a phenomenal fight. I would say on both guys' best day, they're a ranked fighter.
MVP Lima should have been a great fight too, though.
That's true. I would say both these guys on their best day throughout their careers would be a ranked fighter. And again, that's not a bad thing. I would just say they've always been in those action type of fights and in that action fight type of a role. And I don't think this fight will be any different. Nico Price is a guy who every single fight out there, we expect him to get a fight of the night. And Alex Oliveira is in the exact same category. Now, the difference in this one compared to some of their past crazy fights and firefights is both guys really need a win right now. And I think both guys really realize that coming into this fight, so we should get an absolutely wild brawl since both guys know they need a win.
I can't wait for this one, the entire card. Make sure you check out our sponsor for the fight of the night. It's presented by Manscaped. Manscaped.com. Use promo code FNP. You're going to get 20% off and free shipping on your order. Matt, I flip it back to our regular view. Laos Nan is saying there will be blood. Great movie. Do you drink the milkshake?
I don't.
Oh, okay. You don't drink the milkshake. All right, Matt. So we look at this card and we'll start at the bottom. I think Johnny Eduardo's 43, right?
That's never a great question to ask. Like, I know how old pretty much every fighter in the UFC is. Not only to the month, but to the specific day. With Johnny Eduardo, there are hundreds of days that it could be. And that's a really, really big concern. And I know it's kind of been a joke throughout this week, but it's a little wild that no one can agree on how old a UFC fighter is. And the weird thing about this fight is he hasn't been active lately, and I don't even think Johnny Eduardo's a bad fighter. I know we've kind of made fun of him. He's a little bit older, but back in his prime, he's a very dangerous striker. He's got good scrambles. It's just at 41, potentially 43 years of age, you don't get better with age in a division like bantamweight. At heavyweight, you can stick around till you're 41, 42, 43 because your power is the last thing that goes. But at bantamweight, you really do have to rely a lot on speed and a very good gas tank. And those are two things that Perez has in this fight. And that's why I think he should be able to win this one fairly easily.
So I asked a question over there. I mean, everybody going on about the face-offs. But for Johnny Eduardo, looks great.
He does.
Looks great for over 40. I mean, the comment was up there. He's got kind of that Yoel Romero, Trinaldo type build. Kiko CR, filling up the chat. But that's it. Yeah, Sherdog, Topology have him as 41. ESPN UFC have him as 43. I usually side with ESPN and UFC, and this is an inside baseball. When I go to look at the finishes, of a fighter, I usually go with what ESPN has. I take that as word, as law, whatever you want to say, because sometimes they can differ on certain other sites. And you have to be careful with ESPN and UFC too, because they'll include weird fights like Invicta Phoenix Rising, those series that they had, those 1-round fights, like Shanna Young, who's coming up next. They count those as wins on her official record, but it's a 1-round fight. So I just wanted to say that right off the bat. Yeah, I look at this one, Matt. I like Alejandro Perez with the side of youth on his side, if that makes any sense. But he has youth on his side. He also has great skills really wherever the fight goes. So I like Perez in this fight. At Fight Night Picks, if you have a look over on Instagram, 78% of the fans have Perez to get the win, with 22% going with Johnny Eduardo. If it's on the feet, it could be close. But again, I do think that well-roundedness, the work that Perez has been doing at AKA, I think that's going to pay dividends here. I don't really worry too much about the time off. I think that was just really good time for him to kind of let his brain heal.
Yeah, but I do worry about how weird he was after the weigh-in. That's always the thing with Perez. He's done this a few times. Like, he did that weird, like, shoulder grab maybe for the neck at the weigh-ins. Like, after the weight cut, he always does have... This isn't the first time Perez has done something weird in the face-off immediately after the weigh-in. So
Fighters are weird guys.
Fighters are weird guys. But I always worry that, like, maybe the weight cut is really drastic. And maybe he's a little bit loopy and it takes him a long time to rehydrate. So if Eduardo is fighting a lesser version of Perez, who might be a little bit more fragile due to a weight cut, he might be able to win. But other than that one very specific circumstance, I do like Perez in this
Dev
fight.
the Dude saying Eduardo will win. I saw that on your story there on Instagram, sir. And yeah, I mean, hey, we'll move forward. We'll go to our next fight. Stephanie Eggers taking on Shanna Young, the Shanimal. Matt, on the list on the list of nicknames, is it better or worse than Rashad Coulter's Daywalker?
The Daywalker's bad, but it's almost so bad that I like it, you know? Like, the Daywalker, honestly, it's probably near the top of my favorite nicknames at this point, but yeah, Shanna Young, just do something else.
And I mean, listen, for the Daywalker, there was a point in time where he's supposed to professionally box against Hasim Rahman Jr., so that's pretty crazy, but Matt, when we look at this fight, it's a tale of two opposites. For Shanna Young, she spent time wrestling at King's University. I put the picture and I zoomed in and out on it, but from the Invicta website where they said she was a wrestling All-American, but that was the only site that I could find that on, so take that for what it's worth. But she wrestled at King's University, wrestled with the guys in high school, and she's a karate black belt. And you can see that in the way that she fights with the aggression that she has. In her lone UFC fight, she got totally out-wrestled by Macy Chasson, but that was on short notice. Shanna Young spent time at bantamweight and at flyweight. For Stephanie Egger, her striking is bad. I don't think that surprises a lot of people. You look at it when she was fighting in different organizations, with Ryzen, with, really she's fought all over the place. A lot of nice kicks to the body. Everything's trying to soften her opponent up so she can get them down to the mat, where she uses her, and I will say superior judo. It's like to the nth degree. We talked about Yoel Romero. There's certain fighters that have judo that they can use. Man, look at what Stephanie Egger can do in her fights, and it's impressive. But she looked bad in her last fight against Tracy Cortez. So this is one where I throw it up. It's a garbage pick if it's anything. And I know we were split at the start of the week, so I'd like to hear what you have to say, because I don't think we're going to see a title run from either of these women, but if we do, I'd be pleasantly surprised. How about that?
I think we're going to calm down about some of the judo credentials of Stephanie Egger. I don't think if you're that good outside the UFC and then you show up and just get taken down at will by someone like Tracy Cortez, that you are the absolute top tier of your field. I just worry about the grappling of Egger, because physically she's going to have a really hard time with a lot of women at bantamweight. And yes, Shanna Young, like you had mentioned, she was fighting at flyweight, now bantamweight. I still think physically she's the stronger fighter out of these two, and I think that stat matters more than it should. Now, I forgive... Who did Bethe Mullarkey get knocked out by in her last fight?
Josanne Nunes.
Thank you. In that fight, I made a very
I
made a very big point to talk about how the physicality of Bethe Mullarkey was going to be a very big deal in that fight. And it was not a factor whatsoever, because Bethe Mullarkey, not amazing at MMA. I think it will be a factor in this fight, though. I don't think Stephanie Egger's the type of fighter who can go out there and just start hip-tossing people on their head like she's Ronda Rousey in her prime. I think she'll be superior in the grappling exchanges. I just don't think we're going to see very many of those exchanges. I think if Young can keep it on the outside, maybe not strike with a crazy amount of volume, but just have slightly more volume than Egger, she should be able to win this fight by decision. But yeah, I'm not married to the pick.
Yeah, I mean, I have a look at this one. I see different people. Dev the Dude's got her as a lock, and that's Stephanie Egger being her. But she opened a plus 130. She's minus 142 as far as line movement this week. The third biggest mover and shaker, and there's been a lot of movers and shakers, 46% clip towards Egger. If you look at it for Young, she's a plus 119 right now. And if we look at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagram, and I get the phone open, 55% Egger to 45% Young. I like Stephanie Egger in this fight. Do I expect her to? And it's a name we were talking about before the show, so I'll use it. Montserrat Conejo. Do I think she's just going to grab her and hold her down? Maybe not, but I do like Egger in this one to soften her up, to get the takedown, and then work from there. And it's just going to be a pace type of thing. But hey, we'll see what happens in this fight. You talk about being married to a pick. I say it's a garbage pick because one of us gets it right, one of us gets it wrong, and then at the end of the year, you just look at the numbers and nothing else matters. Matt, if I turn 36 tomorrow and I look like Douglas Silva de Andrade, I was doing something right in my life. We have a specimen of a man who weighed in, and I'm going to put 135 on the dot.
That's a professional right there.
135 on the dot.
A little, again, to steal Craig's line, behind baseball, about a week ago, inside baseball, Craig was like, hey, I don't think he's going to make weight. But guess what? He did, and he looked good on the scale, too. And that's the thing that matters. With Douglas de Silva Andrade, he is a massive fighter. And at this weight class, I do think his physicality plays a massive factor. And this fight against Gaetano Pirrello, he's going to have to use his physicality with his pressure, because this is going to be one of those weird fights where he's going to be moving into the danger zone, to quote Kenny Loggins, because Pirrello is such a dangerous striker.
Just an O on the end there, bud.
Pirrello is such a dangerous striker on the outside that if Andrade is finding himself charging in, lunging in, trying to go for his takedowns or trying to flurry, he could get caught by a very big shot coming onto the inside. But the fact that he did look so good on the scale makes me think that, hey, if we get like a 90% prime Andrade, I like the pace he can push, I like the power punches, and I do like his volume overall.
Yeah, I mean, Douglas Silva de Andrade open to minus 200 favorite. He's a minus 263 right now. For Gaetano Pirrello, the Italian out of Belgium, open to plus 170. He's a plus 213 right now. Maybe you like him. Maybe you want to take a shot at him. Again, for Silva de Andrade, he'll throw his combination and then he might like put his back foot back and reset. And he always tends to reset. There's a great opportunity for Pirrello to strike. But out of watching all of Pirello's fights outside of the UFC, his takedown defense was bad. It's not just that Ricky Simone fight. You're fighting one of the better wrestlers in the division. It's going to happen. But man, Pirrello, he was a surprise UFC signing for me. And I feel like I have to say that like every single week now. But he was a real surprise for me. So I look at this one, unless Pirrello lands a really good shot. I mean, to me, Gaetano Pirrello, you're no Said Yakub Kakramanov, who's got a big fight coming up against Brian Kelleher. I saw that yesterday. But you're no Said Yakub. You're no McKinney. You're no, like, I can go Jeremiah Wells, who beat Warley Alves.
Terrence McKinney has 7 wins this year, all in under a minute. So there's a bit of a track record there. No, I agree 100% with what you're saying.
Yeah, I've got Douglas Silva down, Josh. If you can make me an argument for Pirrello, I would assume it's around the same lines unless you're like his cousin or his buddy.
And this thing for Andrade, and this can always happen, with a fighter his age at this weight class, he could get old overnight. Like, this could be the performance.
We got to go to the comment section really quick. Yeah. Sorry, but I eat horse meat on fight week. Isn't De Andrade the guy who quit on his stool against Piotr Jan? He had a cut eyebrow and his corner threw the towel in for him.
But he got destroyed by Piotr Jan. The fact of the matter is, who cares? Piotr Jan's probably your bantamweight champion in one universe, he's the UFC champion. No, I like Andrade in this fight. Again, if he does look old, maybe if his cardio does start to fail him because of his very high work rate, I could see a world where he does tire early, but I do like him in this fight.
All right, Matt, we'll move on to our next one. I said it. This is my favorite fight of the weekend. We have Devonte Smith taking on Jamie Mullarkey. These guys bang.
They do.
They bang, Matt. For Jamie Mullarkey, usually kind of implements a little bit of his wrestling. He can be a really tricky fighter, and that's what makes him so much fun to watch. You look at him against Fares Ziam, I thought that Mullarkey won the fight. You look at the fight against Brad Riddell, some judges gave it, one judge gave him a round, but then another judge had it 30-26. Regardless, Jamie Mullarkey is a fun guy to watch, and oh my goodness, the people that played MMA math with this fight in the comments section this week, I knew it would happen. They said because Mullarkey knocked out Kama Worthy and Kama Worthy knocked out Devonte Smith, you know exactly who's going to win there. And over in the comments section, Matt the Mix says Mullarkey by knockout. Ocasio, fight of the night, I'm assuming. Fight doesn't go the distance. Scott McCain is saying Jamie's going to win. Matt, I think we're splitting the pick for this one. Were we not, or were we in agreement?
We both had Devonte Smith.
We both had Devonte Smith. Okay, so now it seems to me like I'm against a lot of people over there in the comments section, but I mentioned it right from the start. I think that Devonte Smith has improved his wrestling a lot in the last 4 years, and obviously his striking's gotten better since he's been at Factory X. That loss against Worthy, it's going to take some time to see if that was just an anomaly, but right now, to me, I still do think it was an anomaly. Laos Non picking us up, saying that we both had Devonte. And Prince Vegeta's son saying it's a 50-50 fight. So let's look at the odds. If it's a 50-50 fight to you, the odds are fairly close. Devonte Smith is a favorite. They opened at par. He's a minus 153. Mullarkey at a plus 129. I still like Devonte Smith, but I love this one.
This is a must-win fight for Devonte Smith. I will say that. Because
to kind of jump into that next level,
exactly.
Right?
If he loses this fight, then yeah, there are going to be question marks around him from here on out. And yeah, the Worthy loss won't just be an anomaly on his record. It'll be, the constant, if anything. The one thing that I do worry about with Devonte Smith is his durability as a whole. I know he's only got 2 losses, but both those losses are by TKO. And yes, it's going to happen. You're a really big power puncher. You get into some crazy exchanges, and one of those just happened to be against one of your friends in like the weirdest UFC fight ever. But if I do have any question marks around Devonte Smith, it is a slight question mark around his durability. And Jamie Mullarkey's the type of fighter who, if you aren't durable, if you don't have a good gas tank, he's going to make it look a lot worse for you in the fight because he's got great volume and he's not afraid to eat 2 shots just to give 1. And yeah, sometimes in fights, he'll get so far back in the judges' scorecards that he will lose a one-sided decision, or he will lose a fight that it felt closer than it did, then he ends up losing by like 30-27 because he can find himself getting behind in the volume. With this fight, though, it'll be really interesting because I think Jamie Mullarkey, I don't want to say he has equal punching power to Devonte Smith. I'm not going to say that. But I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Jamie Mullarkey won this fight via TKO. He's a very crafty striker. He's really good at setting up his strikes overall. And he does have that weird kind of hitch to his game, for lack of a better term. Like, he's not really traditional with his strikes. He doesn't always go jab, right hand. He will throw looping hooks. He will duck into some of his shots. He just is unusual with some of his striking games. And I could see that giving Devonte Smith trouble. But I still like Devonte Smith in this fight. I think that if he can stick to the calf kick, stick to the jab, just use those tools that can accumulate over time and then really set up his power shots as the fight moves on, I think Devonte Smith can pull off a pretty good win.
Yeah, Smith is the type of guy that's out there throwing 1, 2, even 3 jabs, something that we rarely ever see. I mean, he's training with Mark Montoya, but I think if you had Smith training with a guy like Jalen Turner, if you had him training with Jason Pirrello, I think we could really see an elite striker in this division. But yeah, I like Devonte Smith in this one. At Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams, it is 62% Smith to 38% for Mullarkey. Seems like people are split over there in the comments section. Poten saying didn't realize how big Mullarkey was. And a lot of people were saying, yeah, because Mullarkey's taller, he'll win. So there's that.
Mullarkey does have a weird build to him. Like, he's bigger than you'd think. He's got wide shoulders, but this should be a phenomenal fight. Again, we don't have it on the Fight of the Night screen because we think it's going to be one-sided.
All right, Matt, we go into our next fight. Bethe Correia is taking on Karol Rosa. And if I scream too hard into your ears, I'm sorry, but there are a few people out there that were, it's Rosa, say it Rosa. So I went back and I watched every single Karol fight when she was in Brazil that I could get my hands on. They said it Rosa. I'm going to say it Rosa. Brendan Fitzgerald said it. John Anik said it. I'm doing it. Bethe didn't make weight. Bethe is in a retirement fight.
This is my problem, Craig.
Bethe is 1-3-1 in her last 5.
Bethe Correia doesn't even care about a retirement fight, so why should anybody else? This is my thing. If you were a title challenger, you were a pioneer of women's MMA, you were one of the first challengers of Ronda Rousey. I think, actually, she was their last win before the Holly Holm fight, but still, you came along in a time that was very, very important for women's MMA, and you were a very big part of that early history. But the last part of your career has been very strange, for lack of a better term. She's rocked herself after a head kick from Marion
Walked
Renault.
away in the middle of a fight with her back.
It's just been odd. This is my whole point. You would think, if there was any other fighter, could you imagine if, like, Carlos Condit, for instance, here's a great example. Carlos Condit in his last fight fought Max Griffin. He didn't have to. He could have said, hey, this is my retirement fight. Give me, another aging vet. He went out there, had a great fight with Max Griffin, and then retired. But he made weight, and he was a professional leading up until that, and that's why we love Carlos Condit. Bethe Correia showed up for her retirement fight and missed weight. That's just a huge red flag for me, and I like Karol a lot coming into this week, but now I'm worried about even the dedication and the training regime of Bethe leading up to her last fight. Because there's a part of me that thinks Bethe might have thought, hey, this is my last fight. It doesn't really matter if I win or lose. I might as well just get it over with. So I like Karol quite a bit in this fight, and I think she's going to look better than even I had expected leading into this week.
Thanks, B. Reed. You're the best. And Dave Baker as well that hit us up in the super chat. You're in the comments every week. You're doing great work over there, so appreciate you, Dave Baker, as well. So yeah, when I look at this fight, Clay is saying the odds are pretty much unbettable, and I agree. I actually do really agree with that. I like Karol a lot. But I never go for somebody like she opened a minus 275. If you could have got her at the end of last week in the 300, she's minus 593 right now. And for Bethe, she's at a plus 422. Bethe has good boxing. Karol has a weird plotting style. She's got really thick, like a really thick lower body that's great for when she needs to power into her takedowns. But she kind of like plots around. She throws her hands. Little bit too much for my liking against Vanessa Mello when she did. But when Karol gets the fight down to the mat, I think that's where she's going to show out. And yeah, every now and again, the Melissa Gattos of the world, they're going to submit you in weird, grainy footage that's on YouTube. But yeah, I like Karol in this fight quite a bit.
But if Melissa Gatto is good at anything, it's submissions off her back.
86% of the fans at Fight Night Picks on Instagram have Hosa to win. And yeah, Bethe fought for a title one time. It was too much too soon then, and I think this one is too. She's 38. Matt. Casey O'Neill, her father Cam owns Eternal MMA. I made the mistake. I used the wrong organization. It is Eternal. And for King Casey, she trains out of Extreme Couture. Matt, again, I said this at the start of the week, but I kind of want to go off a little bit. I've been wrong about fighters before. I've had the wrong read on them. Melissa Gatto hadn't fought in 3 years, and I thought her striking was bad, and then her striking got better. It's going to happen when you're a young fighter. Casey O'Neill, I thought she had bad transitions when she was coming up as a pro, but she was still in her early 20s, and you're going to make mistakes, even though she didn't, because she didn't lose any fights, but she had closer fights than I thought she should have coming into the UFC, and then she has her fights in the UFC, and she's looked really good. First round against Procopio, not that great. But against Antonina Shevchenko, that's the thing. These two fighters fight in totally different styles. As long as Antonina goes in there, I'm a Muay Thai fighter. I'm a Muay Thai fighter. I'm not a grappler. Because if she thinks she's a grappler, she's going to get way out-grappled. And over in the comments section, Darren is saying, I love this fight just to see Valentina on my screen 2 weeks in a row. Miz is saying, yo, Craig and Matt, been a while since I caught you guys live. Appreciate that and hope you're doing well. Inside baseball, or as behind baseball, as Matt would say. What are you, the umpire? Are you the fans? Behind baseball, as Matt would say. Full-blown reno. Not here, but at the new house. And the office is already painted. And I'm putting inside baseball. You're going to see more of these tiles, but it's going to look really cool. So I'm excited about that. So appreciate you asking. KGB Lee destroyed her. So yeah, but KGB Lee's up here in a different fighter. So I look at this one, it's weird. Shevchenko's a lot bigger. It's mentioned there by Clay. And a lot of people are saying that. But to me, unless she rocks Casey O'Neill in the first round, I think O'Neill wins this fight.
Okay, this will be the last basketball thing I say, because this is going to take a second to explain. To me, Antonina Shevchenko is like J.R. Smith. In the gym, she's great. In practice, she's great. In the layup lines, amazing. And then when you're taking pull-up dribbles with no one in front of you, she's great. My issue with Antonina Shevchenko is at game speed, there is something that's missing with her. I always worry about the in-betweens with Antonina Shevchenko. I don't doubt that she can do an easy right-hand layup or an easy left-hand layup. I worry about her doing those things when it's put into practice, when it's at game speed, when there's a defender there, and when you have to make more than one decision at a time. That's always been my problem with Shevchenko's game, because like you mentioned, she's a great Muay Thai fighter. I think that she's shown the ability to grapple when she's in top position. Like, she has all those individual areas of MMA that you look for when you think about a contender, especially a contender at this weight division. It's just the in-betweens always seem to get her caught up. For instance, her Muay Thai is really good, but when MMA fighters close distance on her, she doesn't really react to it all that well. She doesn't scramble all that well compared to other MMA fighters. Her wrestling's good though, and so is her jiu-jitsu. It's just the in-betweens that I always worry about. And when I think about this division and some of those fighters who can take advantage of those in-betweens, of the scrambles, of those lapses of judgment, Casey O'Neal's kind of the perfect fighter. When you're thinking about striking and you're thinking, okay, I'm setting this up, I'm setting that up, and whatever, Casey O'Neal's thinking, okay, I'm just going to take you down, and then it's natural from that point on. So I really do think that this fight is as simple as if Casey O'Neal gets one takedown, she can probably finish this one by submission. If Shevchenko can avoid the takedown, I think she can accumulate numbers on the feet, but I still worry about Shevchenko against any top-level fighter, even if she is able to get this win.
Check out Dev the Dude on Instagram.
Do it.
I mean, it's right there. Go for it. Do it. 2/3 of the Fight Night Picks fans on Instagram have Casey O'Neal to get the win here. And over on Best Fight Odds, if we have a look, Casey O'Neal, a little rich for my blood, minus 227 right now. Antonina Shevchenko plus 186. I think it's going to be awkward when Casey O'Neal starts to fight that upper echelon because I'm not sold on the stand-up. I'm really not. If Lara Procopio makes it interesting, and hey, she made it interesting against Karol who's on this card too, at 135 pounds in their respective UFC debuts, but I do kind of worry about it a little bit. So I like Casey O'Neal in this fight. Shevchenko, again, if she wins, it's going to be pitter-patter. It's going to be a lot of work done on the feet, and you look silly if you pick O'Neal. But to me, I like O'Neal in this one. Matt, we move into our next one. Joe Selecki's taking on Jared Gordon. And Matt, you've had a bad read on Jared Gordon, and that's fine because he's been knocked out time and again in the UFC by good fighters, mind you, by good fighters, and he's looked good in his last 2 fights. I'd say he's looked amazing for Jared Gordon standards. I mean, look at his last win. He beat Danny Chavez, a guy that you were high on, I was high on. Now he's fighting Joe Selecki, a guy that doesn't give you an inch, whether that's in the striking, whether that's in the grappling. Very overpowering, and he waits. He's position over submission, which is interesting, especially for a submission guy. So Joe Selecki goes into this fight. He's taking on a guy in Jared Gordon that's slippery on the ground, whether it's in the cage or in the streets. Or on the sidewalks, I guess I should say. And for Jared Gordon, he's got a great opportunity to get a win here, steal the thunder, and continue that win streak. For Selecki, he wants to keep it unbeaten in the UFC. I love this fight. Over in the comment section, Joe Selecki is so, I'm assuming, calm before the fights. It's scary. Gordon moves like a turtle. Luis also says Selecki, Gordon on the money line, Selecki via TKO, Selecki copping the dub is what Miz is saying. I like Joe Selecki in this fight. I think he's going to be overpowering on the ground, but Jared Gordon's kind of burned me enough times now that I worry.
Jared Gordon's the type of fighter who keeps Adolfo Vera up at night. Because how Jared Gordon fights and when Jared Gordon's at his best is, I'm defending your takedowns, you're getting tired, I'm beating you up on the feet, I'm mixing in my own takedowns, I'm just making the fight ugly. That's really the best way to describe Jared Gordon's game. I worry about that type of a game when you're fighting someone like Joe Selecki, who really is the opposite. Like you had mentioned it, position over submission, even though oftentimes he does end up finishing the fight by submission. Because when Joe Selecki finally does get into that superior position, when he does get into the mount, the side control, the back, then exactly, he's exploiting your weak point, and then when it is, okay, Joe Selecki has singled out your arm. Well, I'm pretty sure Joe Selecki, his whole body is stronger than Jared Gordon's arm.
Oliver, if you donate $50, yeah, I'll get a haircut, sure. Go ahead.
Probably not. Here's the thing. If Selecki is able to get this fight to the mat, though, I do worry about Jared Gordon in those scrambles, kind of like we mentioned for the last fight. I think Jared Gordon's a good grappler when he's in that top position, but he has struggled from bottom, and he does have a way of getting up to his feet that does often give his back, and I do think that against a guy like Joe Selecki, who is not only such a seasoned submission specialist, but a back taker at that, I think things like that are, he's leaving the window open for the burglar to come in pretty much. Like, if you're going to let a guy take your back, you don't want it to be Joe Selecki, and I do think Joe Selecki will be able to get it done.
So we have a look at the odds for this one. It was over in the comment section that it was close. Somebody said they got Selecki at a minus 125. He's right now at a minus 134 as an average, and you can get Jared Gordon at a plus 112. And when I look at it being that close, yeah, I like Selecki a little bit more. Over on Fight Night Picks, 74% of the fans have Selecki to get the win, 26% going with Gordon, and I don't see a lot of people going with Gordon over there. Oliver's laughing it off, so apparently you just faked this out. You don't fake out stuff like that. Matt Alexander Hernandez taking on Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden weighed 158.5. Mike, why'd you accept the fight if you couldn't make the weight? Mike Breeden is a striker, Matt. He fights a little bit like Nate Diaz, and I know that sounds funny, but a lot of weight on that lead leg. Pressing forward, plodding forward, throws good boxing combinations, and when he rocks his opponent, like a Jeff Neal, because he's our guy that we talk about a lot, he finds the exact time to really go after his guys. And if the fight goes on, usually Mike Breeden gets a lot stronger, where, and I see it over there, and I'm not going to say the name, but Hernandez probably will gas. That's a perfect opportunity for Mike Breeden to take over. Do not love that weight miss, though. I hate it, actually.
This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to keep this short, very simple. I don't think Alex Hernandez is a top-level fighter in the UFC's lightweight division. I think if he moved down to featherweight, he could be able to implement his wrestling a lot more. I just think he'd be a lot better. Now, maybe him and his coaches have decided that featherweight is completely out. I just can't make it, and it's not going to happen. If that is the case, then I'm perfectly fine with that, and I will come to terms with the fact that Alexander Hernandez is a UFC lightweight. I still think he's going to beat Mike Breeden, though. Like, the issue with Hernandez is that you see him lose to Drew Dober. You see him lose to Cowboy Cerrone, and you kind of forget all the things that he is good at. He still is a pretty good wrestler. He's got good scrambles. I don't think his cardio is great, but I still think with his level of output, it puts it above UFC average. Because it's not like he's just some fighter who goes out there, waits for his power shots, and by the third round is tired. He works behind the jab. He does throw with volume. Like, he is getting stuff done. He's not just going out there and getting tired. So I do think that his volume is going to be a really big key in this fight. And I do think that if he can just mix in his wrestling a little bit and make this an MMA fight, not just a kickboxing fight, he should be able to win. I don't think that after this fight, Alexander Hernandez is now ready to take on another top contender and people can all automatically jump on the Hernandez train again. But what I will recommend is Alexander Hernandez, should probably fight Nasrat Haqparast after this fight. I think that'd be a phenomenal fight. Both guys have losses to Drew Dober. Nasrat's coming off of a loss to Dan Hooker as a top contender. No shame in that whatsoever. And I think that'd be a great fight. I don't know why I'm playing matchmaker, though.
Hernandez open to -300. He's -597 right now. Mike Breeden open to +250. He's +427. Missed weight on short notice, and I saw him in a short notice fight his last time out take on a 39-year-old that almost submitted him. And again, I talked about the level of competition. It wasn't the greatest. He lost to Anthony Romero, who... Where's Anthony Romero on the Alexander Hernandez scale? Honest to goodness, I'd say pretty close. Like, I think Anthony Romero is right up there with Alexander Hernandez. It's just Dana White doesn't like to sign wrestlers on Contender Series.
This is what I will say, though. Alexander Hernandez can still improve. He is still very young, and he does have a game that you can build upon. Like, if Hernandez automatically got a way better kicking repertoire, then you're like, wow, maybe I really like Alexander Hernandez in this division. It's just, right now, they market him like he is an already finished product, top 20 type of a fighter. But to me, I just think he was a prospect who was fast-tracked a little bit too early.
I've got Hernandez in this one. I think the activity in the wrestling could play out. We'll see how the gas tank works out. And the same can be said for Breeden, missing weight by 2.5 pounds. Clay's saying Hernandez versus Kutateladze. Clay, I want to see Guram fight everybody in the top 15, everybody in the top 30, and I'd like to see my guy who also fought Guram. I want to see Mateusz Gamrot fight every single guy up there. I'd love that. I would absolutely love it. But Matt, let's move on to our next one because I had an underdog at the start of the week in Misha Cirkunov, and I love the way that Misha looked on the scale. So yeah, I still have Misha Cirkunov in this fight. I love the fact that he trained with Drysdale BJJ. Again, you work a little bit of the wrestling and the striking with Extreme Couture, but having more attention to detail over at Drysdale, especially with guys that he was training with. I know Kunchenko didn't have a great run in the PFL or the UFC, but with guys like that, I really do like it. And for Krzysztof Jotko, I like it too that he's an American top team. I could see, again, you talk a pitter-patter style, Krzysztof Jotko is like the Jerry West of that style. He just does that, and that's all he does because he normally wins by decision. Very few knockout wins on his record, and he's only got one submission win on his record. I think Cirkunov takes him down and submits him fairly easily.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I kind of like watching Krzysztof Jotko fight. I never thought I'd say that.
What do you like? Earl Grey tea? Do you like biscotti?
I mean, it's not terrible.
You like a nice sweater on a cold day?
I can just appreciate what he does. Not everybody has to be a knockout artist and is still a good striker. And Krzysztof Jotko proves that. I still think he's a really, really good striker. He just doesn't have great power to go along with his striking. Now, I do think Misha looked really good on the scales, and that is a very important thing that has to be said about this fight. Because here's the thing, if Misha weighed in 187, then I wouldn't even consider picking him in this fight, and I would think he'd be an absolute incredible idiot to do it. But him weighing in what he did, I still think this fight's very 50-50. It's only going to go one of two ways. Either Misha's going to win via first-round submission, or Krzysztof Jotko is going to pitter-patter, frustrate Misha, and probably win a 30-26. It'll be really bad, because that's the way Jotko's game is. If it looks really good in the first round, it's going to look even better in the third round by the time Misha's already a little bit more tired. He is reaching for those takedowns. I would definitely say that Misha is more likely to go out there and get a finish win in this fight, but I'm still going to have to pick the pitter-patter style of Krzysztof Jotko. Maybe this is the fight that completely changed my mind on Misha Cirkunov, and maybe this is the fight that can really stamp him as a contender in the middleweight division, but it's hard to believe in something until it does happen. And
we got to show it. I mean, listen, when Misha Cirkunov won by sub, like, it's right there. Now, I can't hold that very straight. Now there's the side of my head, but he's up there somewhere. You see that squiggle? You're not going to not get Randy Jackson's autograph. No, but we got Misha Cirkunov over there. Colby liked the reference to Jerry West, but he couldn't win. Somebody earlier on said Jotko a good striker. Well, if he's not a good striker, then what's he good at? Because he's got a lot of wins. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I really do like Cirkunov in this one. I have a look at Fight Night picks for the votes. Let's go ahead. 59% Cirkunov on the underdog, 41% on Jotko. And let's talk about the odds really quick, just because we got to throw those in there. Jotko, again, like I said, the favorite. Open to minus 160 is minus 141 right now. Cirkunov open to plus 140 is plus 118. I like the man himself, Misha Cirkunov, the Latvian Canadian, to get the win over the Poland guy representing Poland. I didn't really have a good train of thought to end that sentence.
Yeah, I like Jotko in this one. I think he's a more active fighter, and I do think if it goes to a decision, it will be Krzysztof Jotko's fight.
I am going to laugh on Instagram if Cirkunov wins, and I will cry if Jotko wins.
I told you Misha has more than a good chance of winning this fight.
Alex Oliveira and Nico Price. We said that this one could be a great fight of the night. Urban Men of New Jersey. Now, he wants this, and I'll give him this. Urban Men of New Jersey. Men of New Jersey. Might not. Yeah, I mean, I had Cirkunov at the start of the week, so it's kind of funny. It's funny. Matt, Alex Oliveira is taking on Nico Price, and I love this fight. So let's get up. This is one you clang the Red Bulls together like Stone Cold Steve Austin. You stand up on your couch, you yell and scream, you throw the nachos, you throw the popcorn. This one's going to be wild. And MVP Lima 2 was pushed so high, I wasn't surprised when it didn't deliver. But this one, I'd be surprised if it didn't deliver because these guys don't know anything but fun fights. For Nico Price, he fought Vicente Luque twice and lost. But they were fun fights, weren't they?
They were.
He had a wild fight against Cowboy Cerrone. For Alex Oliveira, the guy doesn't know what to do if he doesn't win a bonus. Like, he's got 11 kids, and for Nico Price, he now has 6. So you got to have fun fights, but I absolutely love this one. What are your thoughts here?
I've made some mistakes in my life, but at least I don't have 11 kids. That's my initial thought. Here's the thing.
Maybe they were all playing.
Maybe they were.
But then he had the vasectomy joke, so they're probably not.
Probably not. This is the thing about Alex Oliveira. In his prime, he was a top 15 talent. Now, he wasn't at the higher end of the top 15, but still, he could beat anyone in that 10 to 15 range. It would have a fight of the night win against anybody outside the top 15. I really did think Alex Oliveira was a Mike Perry type of a fighter for a very long period of time. The issue is that, like Mike Perry at this stage of his career, they're both no longer in their primes. And even Nico Price probably isn't the same action fighter he was when he first came into the UFC because Nico Price doesn't really have a sustainable style. You can't fight like Nico Price and have 30 fights in the UFC. Like, you really only got 12 crazy ones in you, and then that's about it. So I do think that we are starting to see the end of both guys' UFC careers. I don't mean that to be mean in any way whatsoever. It's just with Nico Price, he's taken a lot of damage up until this point in his career, and the same thing can be said for Alex Oliveira. I'm still going to stick with the Nico Price pick, although I do have a few hesitations because of his volume. I still think he's the more durable fighter at this stage in his career. I know he's been finished by knockout, but I don't think Alex Oliveira hits nearly as hard as Vicente Luque does, and I don't think he can accumulate the type of damage that Luque did against Nico Price. So unless Oliveira goes out there, plays a very volume-heavy game and can really stay behind his reach, I do like Nico Price in this fight.
I mean, listen, they have as many kids combined as there are NFL games in 2021.
How wild is that?
Regular season games, that is. But yeah, I have a look at this one. Oliveira hasn't looked great to me in his last two, albeit against good fighters like Shavkat Rakhmonov. Good fighter. Look at what he did to Prazeres. Look at the votes. 80% of the fans have Price. Would I be surprised, though, if 20 were right and Oliveira won? No, I wouldn't. So, listen, if you have a really strong read on this one, you let us know. What is it? Steven saying I took the plus 700. I had to on a submission. Oliveira coming in here, an underdog, a plus 65, and for Nico Price, minus 197. Yeah, I've got Price here. You've got Price here?
Oh, yeah. But I'm kind of surprised the odds are so heavily in Price's favor. I still kind of have this as a pick'em fight.
All right, Matt, we move into our co-main event of the evening. Kevin Holland taking on Kyle Daukaus. We talked about it earlier on in the show. Shevchenko O'Neal, rather. That one, total clash of styles. This one, clash of styles, but Kyle Dawkins likes to hit and he likes to swing. Could get him caught. But Kyle looked really good on the scales. Like, it surprised me.
He did.
Physically looked better than that picture or most of the things that we've seen.
No, you're 100% right. And this fight really will come down to the physicality of Kyle Dawkins. And I know a lot of people hear that Dawkins name and they immediately think Chris and his knockout power, but Kyle and Chris do not fight in similar ways whatsoever. Yes, Kyle does believe in his knockout power and he does believe in his hands quite a bit, but I wouldn't say he has the striking ability of his brother. And I know the middleweight division and the heavyweight division are just very, very different divisions. So you can get away with a lot more in some divisions that you can't in others, but still, I do like Kyle Dawkins much more as the wrestler grappler version of Kyle Dawkins and less so of the I'm going to strike on the outside Kyle Dawkins, because even Derek Brunson showed that if you strike on the outside with a guy like Kevin Holland, he can still get from point A to point B pretty quick. And the thing about Kevin Holland's strikes are they come from very upright. They come from weird angles. He's striking down at his opponent. He's got really long arms. He has deceptive power too, because people look at Kevin Holland, they see how thin he is, and they just assume, wow, this guy must have no knockout power whatsoever. But I think it really is his speed more than anything, but he really can hit just as hard as anybody in this division.
A scary stat, and I threw it out there on Twitter late last night because that's what I was doing. I was tweeting weird stuff out. I was watching UFC 29. That was fun. It was on Fight Pass, so why not? I watched it live. And I learned about the Martinetti brothers out of Ecuador. Better watch out for them. They're really, really good. Okay. So that was the rabbit hole I went down. But for Kevin Holland, weighed 183 at the start of the year. Then in his next fight, weighed 183.5. Now in this fight, 183.5. He lost those other two fights. So the other thing that I don't like is the fact that at the media day, obviously he gets asked questions about, hey, you going to move down to 170? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do a test cut to 170. So if you're doing that, why are you taking this fight?
What do you mean?
Why wouldn't you just move down to 170 and forget about 185?
Because he doesn't know if he can make it yet. He has to do the test cut. He just said.
It's weird. It just weirds me out. It weirds me out if you're going to talk about that. Just don't even consider it. Go, hey, I'm going to own 185.
Daniel Cormier fought like 3 times at heavyweight in the UFC, and after each and every one of those fights said, I'm moving down to light heavyweight.
Kevin Holland, minus 175 favorite. Kyle Dawkins at a plus 147. And for the fans at Fight Night Picks, Matt, 86% going Holland to 14% that have Dawkins. Was 47 total votes for Dawkins. What's the pick here? And listen, just hit 100 likes on the video. Good stuff. There's 500 people tuning in.
We can get that up.
It takes 2 seconds. Usually we're up there in the 300s, trending towards 400. Now we got 100. Let's get that up there because the show's almost done, and I'm having fun. So let's get those votes up there. Bud, that doesn't rhyme. Let's go.
You're not a rapper.
What are you saying with the pick here?
Kevin Holland lost to Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson. Those are 2 of the top 5 fighters in the middleweight division, and I don't believe Kyle Dawkins is on that level. And I still think Kevin Holland, whether it is at 170 or 185, he has a game that you can improve upon quite a bit. So I do like Kevin Holland in this fight.
There's levels. Yeah, I mean, I think Beeson 25-8 would be in agreement. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. But this is one of those ones. Would I be surprised if Kyle Dawkins won?
Very. I would, honestly. Kyle Dawkins lost to Phil Hawes. I think that if you lose to Phil Hawes and beat Kevin Holland, something weird's going on in the world.
Phil Hawes got a big fight coming up next week. I'm excited for it. Can't wait for it, Matt. Thiago Santos is taking on Johnny Walker. And from an ask, 46 likes. Just like that. Let's pop that one up there. We can get to 300. I know we can. I want to hear from everybody over there in the comment section because Thiago Santos, with his bum knees, is in Greg Oden territory. He's on his last legs, and that's an awful thing to say. And for Johnny Walker, he's going to have Michelle Pereira in his corner. He's going to have John Kavanagh in his corner. Listen, John Kavanagh not at Bellator last night is weird because he's kind of like their guy, and that's weird in and of itself. But he's going to be with Johnny Walker. Johnny's going to come out there, he's going to do his dance, and he's going to have his fun. Thiago Santos used to do dancing, used to do capoeira, but we don't see those videos anymore. But what I did see this week on the Instagrams was Johnny Walker doing a bunch of spins, Michelle doing a bunch of spins, having a lot of fun.
Couple spinny boys.
And from Thiago, I just don't get those videos anymore. Guy's got a kid on the way, Yana Kunitskaya.
Was Thiago Santos sending you a lot of spinny dancing videos before his ACL injury?
Maybe he was.
I just don't get them anymore.
I mean, I was in the room when he did a spinning wheel kick knockout. So were you.
Yeah, it was
crazy
wild
stuff. First event we ever went to. So again, I want to hear from everybody because
Okay.
Derek's saying Walker is chinny though.
They both are.
They both are.
And okay, I shouldn't say that, but I should. Thiago Santos hasn't looked chinny at 205 pounds, but at 185 pounds, he was borderline fragile. Like, I worried every time a clean shot landed on him. Now, again, I have to say this. Since he isn't doing such a drastic weight cut, I do think his chin has improved. If you look at the Jon Jones fight, he was able to eat quite a few clean shots, I would say, from not an overwhelming power puncher by any means. It's not like Jon Jones is a crazy puncher, but still, if you're eating clean shots from a guy like Jon Jones, it proves to me that you might not be the glass chin fighter that you once were. So I will say that Santos might have a slight edge in durability, but let's get this out of the way right now. We all know that one clean shot from either guy ends this fight. If Johnny Walker lands a single right hand down the middle, Thiago Santos is going down and probably not getting back up. If Thiago Santos does like a switch stance overhand left like he did against Glover Teixeira, Johnny Walker's not waking up from that either. So
No, he's not an old man with the power and will of Connecticut on his back.
yeah, like Glover Teixeira, it's like, okay, Alexander Volkanovski when he's put into a submission, and anytime Glover Teixeira has been dropped.
Luis Rodriguez, if ATT had a plan, he would have won his last 3 fights. He has a case in his third to last fight, I guess, the Jon Jones fight. But the other 2, he doesn't. So I'm just, having fun at your expense there. I don't mean anything by it. But yeah, Urban Men of NJ, you're my favorite commenter this week because you said go rewatch the fight against Jimmy Manuwa. He had good knees in that fight. But that's the thing. He could kind of scare you with the kicks. And I remember, and I'll give Matt his credit. In that fight, the Thiago Santos in Halifax, it was okay. He's setting up the kick. And you can see it. He'll use his hips to his advantage. And it's not in a dancing way, but he is one of those guys that he throws a lot of feints with his legs and with his hips. But in his last 2 fights, you haven't seen as much of that.
No, but we did 2 fights ago. Against Glover, he had all that. And he knocked him down every time he touched him. This is the thing that people are free. That's fine. But if you do it with the hands, you're still getting it done. Thiago Santos' hand speed is still probably arguably the best in the division. I would say he still has some of the faster hands in the division. The difference with him is now he doesn't have the kicking game. Okay, I don't think you can become champ without that kicking game. I still think you can knock a lot of guys out because of your hand speed and your incredible power, and that's why I think you'll be able to get done against Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, other than that one crazy, flash or explosion that he has per round, I don't really worry about him going out there and winning rounds from Thiago Santos. So, okay, if we're just going off volume per round, the slight edge is probably in the favor of Thiago Santos. And then from that point on, I think Santos has more power. I think he's a slightly more durable guy. If he can just stay sound defensively and not fall for that one big trick of Johnny Walker, I still think Thiago Santos with repaired ACLs or even no ACLs like Mickey Mantle, I still think he'll be able to get the win over Johnny Walker.
The odds for this fight, Matt, Johnny Walker coming in the underdog. Open a plus 132. He's a plus 129 right now for Thiago Santos. Open minus 160. He's a minus 154. At Fight Night Picks, the question is, who's the lock of the night? Manpreet's the lock of the night. If you want a lock of the night, I haven't done one since we had Molly McCann, Tyler Santos, Marcia Casey, Rafael Fiziev, and we will leave it there. 52% have Santos to 48% for Johnny Walker. So, Matt, when I look at this one, I like Johnny Walker. I like that he's younger. I like his athleticism. When you're 37, you don't get more athletic unless you're Gary Copeland, and we don't see him much with the UFC, but he does the PFL. Yeah, I don't like Thiago Santos in this fight.
So, okay, let's just say Johnny Walker wins. Anthony Smith next, I would assume. But this is my question, really. Where do you see Johnny Walker's ceiling? Because I have no idea. He could be out of the top 15 in 6 months, or he could find his way to be number 2 in the world. So I guess I'm just asking you, where do you honestly see the career trajectory of Johnny Walker? Because I don't have a read on it.
50-50 fun fighter, top 15 guy. I mean, if Pat Cummins can do it, then Johnny Walker can do it.
But Pat
was less fun, but more 50-50.
Fair enough.
All right, Matt. It's been a lot of fun. Swoosh plays games. Who makes the betting guide for Fight Night Picks? Joshua Hart. His name's there. It's in the YouTube community tab. I add him on the Instagrams. There is that. All right, Matt. So, Santos is taking on Walker. Excitement, level. If we graded just this main event, out of, letter grade, what are you going with here?
I was just going to say 8.2. I won't go letter grade. I'm pretty excited for the main event. It's going to be a finish either way. I don't think it has big implications for any titles or whatnot, but I'm pretty excited for the main event.
8.2. Let us know over in the comments section who you have as we go back from the bottom all the way up to the top. MPTV saying Krylov get lucky. But Krylov played the Krylov game. If I'm not striking, I'm grappling. And oh boy, did he grapple, Matt. First fight on the fight, Perez, Eduardo. It feels like a crapshoot. I've got Perez, but both guys have been off for a very long time. I'm just going track record over the last 4 years.
Yeah, I like Perez in this one. And we don't know, okay, from Johnny Eduardo's break, was the break from 39 to 41 or was the break from 41 to 43? These are the questions we need the answers for. We don't have them. I still like Perez.
All right, Matt. And just my 2 cents, if you're saying jobbers at Slump Walker, well, one of those jobbers just had a main event last week. And I know he didn't do well.
For him.
He's not a jobber. Edgar taking on Young. I've got the great grappler, Will Duke. Hit us up in the comments section all week.
Thank you,
but
Duke.
B, hit us up in the super chat. Appreciate that, Will. Edgar Young, I like Edgar here with the grappling. To me, she's on that, like, it's not a Hall of Fame badge. What's the one below it?
Gold.
It's gold.
But this is the problem. When you say Stephanie Egger has judo to that level, we've seen what just being a judo expert can get you in MMA. Look at Kayla Harrison. Look at Ronda Rousey. I don't think Stephanie Egger comes close to either one of those two. And using her...
It's one fight.
No, I'm just saying. I don't think she has the style that can go out there and just consistently win MMA fights with her judo. This might be the fight that changes my mind, but I still think Shayna Young has the more consistent and more well-rounded game.
All right, Matt. Next one, Andrade taking on Pirrello. I've got D Silva in this one.
I also have D Silva. He looks great for 36.
I'd love to see, if we could set it up with Fight Night picks and have like a line of people just, like you guys pick, but we get hit by one guy. Man, the video of me getting punched in the face by Douglas Silva de Andrade, that'd be a good one.
That'd be great.
Devonte Smith taking on Jamie Mullarkey. I like Devonte Smith in this one.
I think this is the fight of the night, but I do have Devonte Smith.
Next one, we have Bethe Correia taking on Karol Rosa. I've got Karol in this fight.
Like Pablo said, cash him, don't trash him. I also like Karol Rosa in this one.
Antonina Shevchenko, Casey O'Neill. It scares me. I've got O'Neill, but it scares me.
This is one of those,
two things.
exactly. It's one of those fights where if you pick Casey O'Neill, you might look bad and she gets like 30-26 and looks really bad. Or she goes out there, Scramble City, gets a submission. I'm going to pick Casey O'Neill, though. I think she'll be able to get the submission.
Joe Selecki taking on Jared Gordon. Another really close one. I do like Joe Selecki. The guy puts a ton of pressure on you when you're on the ground, and his boxing's improved. So I do like him. But man, Jared Gordon's is a tricky fighter.
He really is a tricky fighter, and he's just tough to get out of there. I know he has knockout losses, but when you're fighting Jared Gordon, it's never an easy night out there. He's going to get some of his own kicks in too. I still like Joe Selecki. I like his grappling. I think he's the more a physical fighter out of these two. I like his grappling more. I really liked what I've seen of Joe Selecki up until this point.
Do I want to get hit by D Silva? No, but that'd be a cool content piece, I think. Alexander Hernandez is taking on Mike Breeden. I mean, Johnny Knoxville got punched by Butterbean. I got my Butterbean glove over in the corner onto a linoleum floor. And it was good content. I like to watch it. Hernandez, Breeden. I don't like that Breeden missed weight. I don't think that plays well for his cardio, which he can usually weaponize. So I like Hernandez in this fight. The odds are silly, but I do like Hernandez.
I'm just worried that if Hernandez does win, they're going to fast track him and give him another borderline ranked guy. And I don't think he's ready for that whatsoever. I would like to see Hernandez get that slow build. Give him the Bellator rise.
Give him Leonardo Santos that he was supposed to face anyway.
Exactly. That's a great call. So I do think he'll be able to get done against Mike Breeden, but I think we should pump the brakes a little bit on the Alexander Hernandez hype.
Would have broken my heart because I would have picked Hernandez to beat my guy Leonardo Santos. Serkinov is taking on Jocko. I've got Serkinov in this fight. Love the way he looked on the scales.
This fight's going to be one-way traffic. I just don't know what direction it's going to be going in. I think the volume striking of Jocko and the footwork will be able to negate the takedowns of Serkinov, but if Serkinov takes him down, it'll probably be over pretty quick.
Oliveira taking on Price. I will slightly edge Nico Price in this fight.
I think Nico Price is slightly more durable at this stage in his career, and I do think this fight's going to come down to durability and cardio, so I'll pick Nico Price.
And our next one, Kevin Holland Dawkins, one way or the other, but I like Kevin Holland here. Slick jiu-jitsu off his back, but Kyle Dawkins is one of those guys, it's like the darkness. He just doesn't go away, and he just keeps coming, and every night you're like, will it be sun? Unless you're in like the north of Canada or somewhere in Scandinavia or Russia, no, it's probably going to come for you. So yeah, just like the night, Kyle Dawkins could get you, but I like Kevin Holland here.
That was a lot, Craig. Here's the thing about Kevin Holland. I just like the amount of time in between this fight and his last two, because yes, you got wrestled by Derek Brunson and Marvin Vettori. It's hard to improve upon your wrestling in that short period of time in between those two fights. I like the fact that he has actually taken some time to work on his individual skills and not just rushed into another fight to be like, oh, let me prove that I am a good wrestler. So I think Kevin Holland will show another facet of his game, and I think he'll look good tonight.
Walker Scott hit us up in the super chat. Charles Bennett, Charles, you hit us up in the super chat as well. You had a great parlay last weekend, so appreciate that. Matt, yeah, I've got Holland in this one, but again, a lot of vocal people going with Dawkins over there in the comments section. In the main event, I've got the more mobile fighter who's younger, and Johnny Walker. I think the weirdness, the oddness, it's probably going to be a finish, and if it's not, it's going to be disappointing. I thought we were going to get a finish when Cody Garbrandt fought Rob Font in the main event. I was pretty hot and heavy on that one, so that kind of threw me for a loop. But in this one, I do like Johnny Walker. I think having a consistent full training camp where you're focused on fighting, you're focused with John Kavanagh, you dilly-dally with
John
Pereira.
Kavanagh and focus, two things you often put together.
Yeah, no. But when you Owen Roddy, you see, like, he wasn't there for a little bit of Connor, so there's that. But again, Michel Pereira adding a little bit of the wildness factor, turning it up to 12. I do like Walker in this fight. Because Thiago Santos just, I don't think he's looked good in his last two. Again, he had great moments against Glover and against Rakic, who's a totally different fighter than Johnny Walker. He didn't really have any answers. So yeah, I do like Walker here. Lionheart 1906 saying Walker has no cardio and no chin. And he shouts it in all caps. And then he shouts it again. Then he copies it and he just keeps shouting it. Now you're gone.
This is the problem with Johnny Walker. He walks into range too fast. He doesn't use his range as an advantage, and that's why I think he's going to lose this fight. I think he's going to make this fight a boxing fight more than just an MMA fight, and it's going to be to his detriment. Because if he does stand at range and use the fact that Santos doesn't throw very many kicks to his own advantage, I think he could win this fight at range. But I do think he's going to invite some of those in-tight boxing exchanges, and I do think that's where Santos can shine. If you look at the Glover fight, yes, Glover did end up beating him. He dominated him on the mat. But on the feet, Santos' hand speed still is there, and he still has incredible power in his punches. And I definitely think Glover Teixeira is a more durable fighter than Johnny Walker. So if Santos is able to land a similar shot on Walker that he was able to on Glover, I think he's going to put his lights out.
Matt, I absolutely love the fight and the fight card. I'll switch it back over to the fight on the night screen. That's what we have next weekend. You got Dern taking on Rodriguez, but I had to rip down through the card, and I've started my notes already for this one. It's hard not to get excited. I talked about it earlier. You know, Phil Haas has a big fight coming up, but he really does. And if you do a deep dive through this one, it's the same as this weekend and the weekend after that. Listen, name value-wise, they might not be some of the biggest fights. Randy Brown's fighting Jared Gooden. That's one you can get excited for. Phil Haas, Deron Wynn. The return of Maria Agapova taking on Sabina Mazo. Chris Gutierrez is going to kick the legs off Felipe Colares.
Okay, let's not tell everything right now.
Alexander Romanov taking on Jared Vandera. But Matt, yeah, I get so excited for it. I think it's going to be a great one. If you like the poster, you let me know. But Matt, I know your excitement level's there for next weekend.
Yeah, it should be a really good card. Again, these are the cards that always overperform. No one gets excited for them. You have them on in the background, and then it's like, oh my goodness, that was a great fight. And then next fight's a great fight, and they normally do deliver. So I'm really excited not only for today's fights, but for next week's as well.
I can't wait for it. So appreciate everybody that tuned in today. All of the super chats. You guys are the best. And we need some more help from you. And it's an easy one. If you yourself or a friend, you're lurking, you're hanging out, you're not hitting that subscribe button, you should, because once we get up to 30,000, we're going to add that show, the Dana White's Contender Series preview show. I know a lot of people want it already. Trust me, the DMs, they're out there. So if you can do that, it would certainly be appreciated. I'll flip it on back to the regular view. And thanks so much for tuning in to Question Mark Kicks. Matt, I can't wait for this fight card, for next weekend's fight card that I've already said too much about. So really appreciate it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, it's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.